This is the Commercial Landscapers podcast hosted by Dave Anderson and Robert Klinkenbeard. This show will absolutely transform your leadership by developing all aspects of your life in business, family, personal and health. Only by fine-tuning yourself will you truly operate as a highly functioning leader. Welcome everyone, my name is Robert Klinkenbeard. I'm here with David Anderson. We're with the Commercial Landscapers podcast and delighted to welcome Adiba Nelson onto our show today. We're going to spend about 20 minutes talking to Adiba. So a little bit of background about Adiba. We're going to ask her for where we can contact you afterwards, but Adiba, she's not only an author, but she's a business owner. She's spoken on a TEDx. She was recently awarded an Emmy for a winning documentary, The Full Nelson. She's written many articles for Huffington Post, Washington Post, many other articles, but she is an absolute rock star, and we are delighted she could join us today. So welcome, Adiba.
Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
So Adiba, you know, since this is obviously a podcast and people can't see you, I'd love to talk to you, first of all, about, you're African-American, you're a single mother, you're the mother of a wonderful daughter with special needs. So you've probably, I would imagine, just gone through a lot of challenges and to where you are today with, again, being a business owner and all these other accolades. So just talk through your challenges and in the mindset and getting through some of those challenges.
There has been quite a few challenges. Kind of feel like the queen of intersectionality sometimes where I'm Black, I'm a woman, I'm a single mom, my daughter has special needs. Like, what else are we going to add to this intersectionality, right? But I think the thing that has gotten me through it all the time is I'm also kind of a rebel. Like, you tell me something can't be done, and I'm going to prove to you that I can do it. I'm going to prove to you that it needs to be done, and it needs to be done in this way. And so when my daughter was first diagnosed, well, actually before she was even diagnosed, I kept bringing up these things that I was noticing to her pediatrician. Her posture is not right. She's not speaking. She's not doing this. And as Black women, we have a history in the medical profession of being ignored, of not being believed. When we say these things are happening or we feel pain. And it took me just pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally, I actually had to just kind of lie and say, okay, yeah, we'll go to see a specialist for her arm, even though I knew something else was happening. Because I knew that my daughter needed more care than what the pediatrician was willing to offer. When she was in childcare, when she first started, the preschool said, we can't move her to not even the 1-year-old room, even though she was only almost 2, because she was unable to walk. And I pushed back and I said, well, tell me what walking has to do with learning your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s. Help me understand that. I guess I have that mindset of I don't really understand the concept of no, which, that bothered the crap out of my mom growing up. Doesn't quite work well when you're in junior high. But it has served me really well as an adult and as a business owner. Not understanding that concept of no has actually gotten me to the point that I'm at now.
So talk with you an example where, either in the business world or maybe even getting your book published or one of your other professional challenges.
So there's 2 things in mind specifically. When I was first starting my company, Rocket Chair Productions, I had a business partner and I was going to go, he lives in California, I was here in Arizona, and we were going to go into the bank at the same time, his bank in California, my bank here, and sign documents simultaneously to open up a business banking account. And I was listed as the CEO of the business and he was my co-CEO, my partner, but I was the primary. And the woman that was working with me, she was like, we can't start without your partner. And I was like, why? She's like, well, we have to wait for the CEO. I was like, hi, I am the CEO. I'm here. You don't need to wait for him. It's me. And then the other thing that comes to mind is when I was trying to shop my children's book back in 2011 is when I wrote it. And I was looking for a publishing house. to publish this book, manufacture this book about a little Black girl with disabilities who's just like all the other kids, because it was representative of my child and the millions of other children in the world that have disabilities. And time again, I was told no. And one specific no that always stuck out to me was, it's too niche. The world isn't ready to see a book like this. It's not ready for this. And I remember thinking, well, that's ridiculous, because my child is not going to sit and wait for the world to be ready to see her. She's here now. And so I just decided to do it myself, knowing nothing about self-publishing, but that's what good old Google is for. And I Googled my way through it. And that was in 2011. We published in 2013. And as of last week, I have officially sold about 6,300 books independently. Don't have a publisher, on my own. Because I don't take no. Like, you were not going to make me wait for my child to be seen and for 150 million other kids who identify as disabled to be seen.
Oh, that's great.
An impressive story. Very, very. You've said several times, and I'm actually a big believer in it too, is mindset. From the time we wake up till the time we go to bed at night, and sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, we have different mindsets based on what's thrown at us. What do you do to prepare yourself each day to be in the right mindset, or when things happen, to help kind of self-correct?
So I tend to wake up at between 4 and 4:30, because I'm not a morning person, but my daughter is. So I need that space just for myself. So I get up, I have my routine of I wash my face, brush my teeth, make my bed, and then I go straight into my office and I meditate and do yoga for about 40 minutes every morning, just to kind of get myself centered and calm, know what I need to go through the day with a clear head, right? Go in the kitchen, make my tea, sit down at my computer, and start either looking at emails or sending emails or figuring out my to-do list for that day. And then I just kind of go through it. It's been a little bit harder because of this pandemic and quarantine. I feel like everything has been shifted, kind of what even is time anymore. But I still try to keep that routine of just, even if I'm not getting up at 4:30, still going into my office first thing in the morning, even if it means turning on cartoons for my kid because she's already awake, going into my office and getting my head together before I do anything else.
A leader can't lead if they don't have a clear head to start each day. So yeah, I completely respect that. In your TED Talk, you talked a lot about what your mom taught you. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Oh, there's so many things, David. It's only 20 minutes we have here.
Give us the Reader's Digest quick version, the most important. How about the top three, Adiba? That would be great, the top three.
So I'd say even above and beyond the top three, the one thing that my mother repeated to me over and over again, which stays with me every day, is life is what you make it. Regardless of anything that shows up on your plate, life is what you make it. And that's really hard to swallow when you're going through what I kind of feel like sometimes are the pits of hell. How do you make this any better? But there's always a way. You have to find a way to see where that lesson is going to be and how you can learn from that to then move to the next thing. And I hated it growing up. Like, I would get in trouble and I get grounded. She'd be like, well, life is what you make it. I'm like, I didn't make this life. Like, you decided to have me. I didn't choose this. But it's true. Life literally is what you make it. And yes, systemically, cards are stacked against many of us, especially as people of color. But we just have to keep trying. We have to try to break down those walls, break down those systems that are stacked against us so that we can finally be on that level playing field and really make the most out of the life that we have.
So, Adiba, when you talk about, stacking of cards, there's a lot of people out there right now who are scared.
Yeah.
They've got an uphill battle with either their business. I don't feel as though the economic part of things has really started yet.
Right.
I think there's a long road ahead of us. People are having challenges at home. They're stressed. They're not used to being around their partners. What type of advice or feedback, with you going through all these challenges for many a year, what type of advice would you give them?
really think outside the box. I've had to get really creative on how to keep making money because my bread and butter is I don't really make a whole lot of money off of selling books. My books are $5.99. I make, $3, $3 a book, right? My bread and butter comes from speaking. I do speaking engagements around the country, and spring is my busy season. And COVID took that all the way out. So how do I make money now? It's literally been reaching out to companies that I would normally go and do a keynote for or a workshop for and see if they're interested in doing something virtually. Or can I put together like a curriculum for your classroom? Can I do story time for your kids in your class so that you can take some time off, teachers, and I'll do, your ELA section. It's things like that, really thinking outside the box, reaching out to people and saying, hey, do you know any independent bookstores that don't carry my book that would be interested in it? Can you put me in contact with them? Kind of cold calling, but not necessarily doing that sometimes uncomfortable work of the ask. We don't like to ask our friends for help with our business because, there's that, I don't want to call it an illusion, but from the outside, it looks like, we've got it all together. We're running the business. Everything's going smoothly. And for the most part, it typically is until a pandemic happens. And you're like, whoa, what do I do now? So it's doing some really uncomfortable work, but work that in the end, it not only gives you new relationships, but it helps you grow. It takes you outside of your box and makes you a little bit uncomfortable, but that's where the growth happens, is in that uncomfortable space. You learn things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's actually interesting that between podcasts and other people I've been speaking to, a lot of them have been speakers or who have relied on different sources of income, and now that's been taken away from them, and have now had to either pivot, to dig deep, or to be nimble and just change directions really quickly. So it'd be interesting just to find out, people even talk about, how does this look in the future? Do I huckle down, or do I actually try to, I call it land grab, which is taking advantage of what opportunities there are out there. So talk to me about just some of the things that, that maybe you're doing a little bit differently, or what does the future look like for you?
The future, I wish I had a solid answer for that. I don't know. I feel like a lot of my work is going to be done virtually now. And a lot of that is by my own choice. I have a child with disabilities. I have an autoimmune disorder. I don't know that I'm necessarily comfortable going to an arena that's going to have 1,000 people in it and speaking. I might say, pass me in or something. I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. So it might look like definitely changing up how I'm presenting to businesses and to schools and to teachers and kids. That makes it difficult. I have to find a new way to really reach the children now, because that is something that's a huge part of what I do is, I go into schools and I do story hours with these kids, and we talk about disabilities and inclusion. And how do you talk about that when you can't show it right there and have them kind of go through an activity with you? It's going to change in that regard. I think it's forcing me to really think about what other solid things I can create that there is a need for that will still continue to generate money outside of just speaking. I still need to bring money in. So I have, the one book. The second and third books are written, working on getting an illustrator now to get those books out onto the market. Whereas before I kind of felt like, okay, like it'll happen when it happens. Now it's like, no, it has to happen now. The time is now. So kind of pushing up timelines before, or pushing up timelines now that I was kind of a little bit lax on before.
Yeah, pandemic will make us do all kinds of stuff we didn't think we were going to be doing, huh?
Things.
Yeah. Well, and a pandemic is not the only challenge that we're all facing. And you've used the word a couple times, inclusion. And I know inclusion, you've talked about how that goes with your daughter. But, if you look at the bigger world right now, especially in the US, what's going on, inclusion is a big word on many levels. And how can you kind of translate that inclusion or help, the people listening here today understand that word better. And, diversity is one thing, but inclusion is another thing that I don't think people fully grasp. Can you give us some of your thoughts around that?
That is a really great question, David. Thank you so much for asking that. Okay, so I think when I speak about inclusion, people think I'm speaking specifically about disabilities because I have my child. But inclusion is greater than just disabilities. It's race inclusion, it's gender inclusion, it's religion inclusion. It's making space for everyone to come to the table, and there is a microphone at every seat. Everyone is heard, everyone is valued, everyone has the same starting point. We don't make this okay for one group, but the same thing not okay for another group. A prime example of that is the hair issue that has come up. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the fact that Black women were being penalized, if you will, for wearing their hair, like say like mine, in locks, or as it naturally grows out of their hair, out of their head, in an afro and big hair, cornrows, whatever, being told that that is unprofessional, it's unkept, it's messy, it's dirty. And I think as corporations, you really need to look at where does that mindset come from? What is the basis of that? What is the root of that belief? And why was that root started? What was the purpose of that? And if you're employing that within your company in any way, shape, or form, whether it's around gender, whether it's around disability, whether it's around race, you need to examine that and then find meaningful ways to deconstruct that. And it has to come from the top down, full culture shift from the top down.
Totally agree. So let me back it up even one step further. As a mother, Robert and Faith have like 27 kids, but I only have 2. It sounds like you have one child, but yeah. How do we as parents help teach that inclusion to our children? Because it's a lot harder when we have people, in their own mindset in that. What can we do as parents to help solve this long term?
No, honestly, I was just talking to some friends about this because my friend circle here in Arizona is so varied. And I think it's one thing to teach this to your children. It's one thing to say to your child, we are all, worthy of love. We are all the same. We all deserve protections, da, 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 da. It's another thing to have different people involved in your child's life so that you are modeling how you treat these people. So, I'm obviously not white. I'm Black. I'm Afro-Latin. So my daughter's around me. My daughter's around Robert and Faith. My daughter is around one of my closest friends who is transgender. My daughter is around my cousin who is gay. My daughter has her best friend who is white, but also has friends who are disabled. So she's able to see me interacting with all these different kinds of people. And so she takes that and says, these people are safe. These people are love. These people are kind. I treat them the way my mom treats them. It's a modeling. And so I would really encourage people to just really kind of step outside of our bubbles. One of my friends was saying, I don't think I have any friends that are Black. I don't have any friends that are gay. I don't have any friends that are transgender. And by no means am I saying run out to your closest LGBTQ bar and be like, hey, let's be friends. I have kids. Don't do that. Don't be that person. But take your kids to a pride parade. Because if we want to show that we are accepting and we're loving and, we support everyone's right to love, love is love is love, then let's go and show that support. This is love in action. That's how I see it.
Yeah, those are great points. And what I would say, this person who tells you that they don't have any gay friends, Black friends, trans, they're not really looking very hard. They're kind of blind to it, and they're just selecting because they just don't want to acknowledge it, probably more than anything. Sorry,
you're gay friends and don't know that they're gay.
Yeah, exactly. People are here to listen to you, not me. So I'm going to turn it back over to Robert for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So, Adiba, talk to me about the importance of having either coaches, mentors, just people around you as you've gone through your journey? I mean, you've obviously met some amazing people over the last few years, and just talk to me about the benefits and help of people around you.
Absolutely. So the story that I was telling you earlier about when I went into the bank to sign the paperwork, I never actually ended up signing the paperwork because that morning my business partner had a massive stroke and never made it to the bank. And I panicked. I've never run a business. My bachelor's in social work. I'm the happy fun girl who dances through the aisles of Target. I don't know about a business. He was the business mind. I was the creative. So I went into pure panic mode and I called a girlfriend who runs a multi-million-dollar company based out of Colorado. And she's actually a part of EO as well. I told her what was happening and she said, okay, but when are you going to start the business? I was like, I can't. I don't know what. Why would I do this? I don't know anything about this. And she said, I'm going to be in town in 2 weeks. We're going to have breakfast and I'm going to walk you through this. You cannot not start your business. And she has been my mentor since that day of me crying over brunch. I don't understand what market valuation is. Can you please spell this? And has taught me every single thing I know. And I feel like there's still a lot that I don't know, but she has walked me through this entire process and I have learned so much. She refuses to allow me to make any business decisions without talking to an attorney first. She was the one who said, get a trademark, get a copyright, get a patent, do all of these things so that you are always protected. And she has put me in the room when other people have not put me in the room to help me make connections, to meet the people that will help me continue to move up. And she will reach out on my behalf on any given point in time without me even asking, be like, oh, hey, I met this person who can help you. Here, speak with them. And that has been invaluable for me. Also, Robert, I'm just going to gas you up a little bit. Watching you, I am kind of just in awe sometimes because just of how you work and how hard you work, and you just keep moving up and up and up and up. When you pulled out this little book and you're like, hey, I wrote a book. I was like, wait, when did you write a book? When was this the plan? And I've just always been very impressed. And so there are certain people that I kind of lurk behind the scenes and kind of watch how they move and model my steps. And you're definitely one of those people.
Well, I just learned from David here.
Oh, well, see,
we're in a world of hurt, Robert.
Well, what's funny is, Adiba, is that Dave and I talk about this all the time, that even though we've been in business for whatever 20, 30 years, I mean, Dave and I are still learning. I mean, even today, we were an earlier talk, I was learning some stuff. So I feel as though that's part of your growth, is learning and being open to learn every day. So last question for you, Adiba. I know you've got a big future ahead of you and so much potential, and obviously this pandemic will get behind here quickly, but anything concerning you or anything you're worried about as you become that future star that we're all asking for autographs soon?
I'm concerned about the cost of a nanny. No, honestly, I find myself constantly just being in awe and amazed by the things that happen, the blessings that come in. And I always try to keep myself very in check. I don't ever want to lose that amazing, where everything is just, everything's brand new, everything's amazing. I don't want anything to ever get old to me. So I think about that often, like how do I keep myself grounded? How do I still be that girl, Adiba, raised in New York, came to Tucson, couldn't climb a dirt hill? Like, how do I stay that girl? Even, when cameras are flashing or people are asking questions and wanting me to talk about things I have no interest in talking about. How do I remain myself and remain centered and true to myself? I do think about that often.
Thank you, Adiba. So how do people get in touch with you?
So you can reach me via email through my website, thefullnelson.net. My email is adiba@thefullnelson.net, A-D as in David, I-B as in boy, A, at thefullnelson, like the wrestling hold, yes, .net. And I usually respond within 24 to 48 hours.
Cool. Thank you, Adiba. I really appreciate your time today. I'm super excited about the future ahead of you.
Thank you,
David
Robert.
Anderson, thank you for joining me and helping me
Thank you,
ask some
David.
great questions today. This is the Commercial Landscapers Podcast, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was the Commercial Landscaper Podcast, hosted by Dave Anderson, author of Leader is Not a Title, and Robert Klinkenbeard, author of The Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs. You can find more details about the show and the hosts at the radixgroupllc.com or thecommerciallandscaper.com.